Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Heidi from My Reading Life, here today to film a recent and currently reading video. I apologize for the poor lighting and the not very interesting background. We're currently experiencing the tail end of the tropical storm, which was once Hurricane Dorian. And we're getting lots of rain, up to 2 or 3 inches of rain today, and some wind. Nothing major, but 30 or 40 mile an hour wind. And so it's dark and noisy outside, so I apologize if you can hear that wind behind me as well. So this month, my husband and I have decided to stay up at our camp on the lake, and so that's why I'm here in my bedroom at camp, and I have been doing some reading, so let's just get to it. The first book that I completed since the last time I checked in is a nonfiction book, Ask Me About My Uterus by Abby Norman. This is a sort of memoir and her experience in dealing with the illness endometriosis. And it's all about her quest to get doctors to recognize her pain as real, and the illness that she was experiencing as a real thing. She first realized that something was seriously wrong with her as a 19-year-old starting college. She had an episode of extreme pain in her abdomen area, and they couldn't really figure out what was wrong with her. The pain wasn't going away. It was debilitating. She couldn't function. She couldn't leave her bed. And it's all about her quest to find out what was wrong with her. This illness eventually makes her have to leave college. She can't finish school. And basically her illness, becomes the thing that she is having to deal with the most. And in the process of trying to learn more about what it is that's impacting her so profoundly, she does a lot of research on her own. She basically, studies up on these types of ailments, endometriosis and other types of issues that impact mainly women, but can also impact men. That part of the memoir was really fascinating. We also learned more about Abby Norman's childhood, which was not a easy or comfortable childhood. There is child abuse in this book. Abby Norman becomes legally emancipated from her parents at age 16. This was doubly interesting to me because Abby Norman is from Maine, as am I, and so she's telling a story of a childhood that is not something that I would imagine happening in Maine, and just goes to show you what happens behind closed doors is not often visible to just the broader community. So that part was really good. The part that I had a problem with is the end. So Abby Norman is sort of telling the story of her childhood and her 20s, and she's only 29 when this book was published, or 29 or 30, and the book just kind of ends. It doesn't have an ending, it just stops without any resolution, which, as the ladies on the Reading Women podcast mentioned when they talked about in their review of this book, which is excellent discussion, you should check that out. That's the real world case. When you have a chronic illness, there is no there is no happy ending. There is no all of a sudden you're cured. There is no definitive answer. But the book itself, well, I didn't need for there to be an answer or an ending to her disease. I did need the book to sort of wrap up a little bit better. It just petered out at the end, and it may be just because Abby Norman is a young person and she really hasn't lived a lot of her life yet, and so that was just the end of that section of her story. But it was just a strange ending to me. So, but definitely very interesting, and if you want to learn more about endometriosis and the history of that illness and how it's been dealt with in the medical community, I highly recommend Ask Me About My Uterus. I then finished a romance novel I was listening to on audio and reading and discussing with Doris from Aldi Books and Kate, the name of the book is Brazen and the Beast by Sarah MacLean. This is the second book in the Bare Knuckle Bastards trilogy. I think it's going to be a trilogy. In this book, we follow Hattie, who is a spinster, like 28 or 29 years old, and she is struggling to get her father to recognize her skills, her business skills, so that she can lead his shipping company when he retires. And Beast is, of course, the brother to Devil from the first book, and he and Hattie come into contact with each other, and of course sparks fly and romance ensues. I found this book totally delightful. Hattie is a wonderful character, knows her own mind, who is not afraid of her own intelligence and not afraid to speak up for herself. She is not afraid to work for what she wants and to defy conventions to get it. Beast is a wonderful character. He is supportive of her want and drive for a career, and the only real drawback I found to this romance was that it was highly explicit, and the sex scenes could have probably been cut in half at least. It kind of dragged on some of the sex scenes there at the end, and I didn't need quite so much of that, but the banter and the storyline itself I loved. So highly recommend that as well if you're into romance novels. Also very good on audio, except Beast doesn't talk a lot, and so his grunting and growling got a little old by the end as well. Then the last thing I've completed is this book, Travels with Charley, In Search of America by John Steinbeck. This is a sort of, it is nonfiction, but evidently some parts of it are made up. But John Steinbeck traveled around the country, the United States, in 1960 in a truck with his dog. And I don't know how much of that is true or not true, but ostensibly that's what this book is about, him traveling around the country from east to west and then back again with his dog Charley, and basically to see real people in America and what they thought about things. And so it's just a series of vignettes or anecdotes as he travels around, some really beautiful nature writing. The very beginning of his trip, he's living on Long Island with his wife, and he leaves from there and travels north to Maine, and some of his descriptions of autumn leaves, just stunning. He asks a woman, how do you get used to how beautiful it is here when the leaves change color? I'm paraphrasing here. It wasn't said exactly like this. And she replies, it's a surprise every year. And I totally relate to that. It is a surprise every year. Every year you're like, the leaves can't possibly have been this beautiful last year or the year before. And every year it's a new delightful surprise. And there's lots of funny stories, lots of poignant stories. On his way back, he travels on the way west. He travels the northern route through the northern states, down through California, and then back across the south. And when he gets to the south in Louisiana, he on purpose seeks out, schools are just starting to be integrated in the south, and he on purpose seeks out one of the schools where little black children are being escorted into the school by police and U.S. Marshals, and supposed mothers are standing outside the school screaming nasty things at these children. And he just, from that point on, basically loses his taste for his project. He's sickened by what he sees, and he can't understand how people can act like that. And it kind of like makes the end of this book really depressing, and he just obviously loses all heart for the project. So that was really hard to read about. There is his treatment of Native Americans in this is really problematic and made me feel sick to my stomach. So heads up for that. Heads up for casual racism all over the place as he's heading through the South. That's also hard to stomach, but he is documenting what was going on at that time period. So good. A good picture of America in the early 1960s. Beautiful Steinbeck nature writing. So I would recommend this. There's a hysterical story about him trying to cross the border with the dog to travel through a bit of Canada, and that what that says about bureaucracy is true today and probably will be true for all time, but I really found that part delightful. So recommend this. Now I am like, what's the word here? I have really booked myself for buddy reads, so I am going a bit nuts with buddy reads. I'm loving it. This is not in a negative way at all, but you will notice that I have a lot of fairly chunky buddy reads on the go at this moment, so having a lot of fun with that. The first one, of course, is my buddy read of Barkskins by Annie Proulx with Natalie from My Reading Days. We're still slowly working our way through this historical fiction, which tells the story of the lumber industry in New England and as it spreads across the North American continent from the 1600s all the way through the present day, following two family lines. Delightful. I am continuing my reading of one short story a week in this collection with Sean the Book Maniac. And then I've started with Doris and Patrice. We are reading, with Doris, Patrice, and Karen from Run Right Reads. We have started this read of The Warmth of Other Suns, The Epic Story of America's Great Migration by Isabel Wilkerson. This is award-winning nonfiction about the migration of black folks from the southern part of the U.S. to the north and western parts of the U.S. from during the Jim Crow period, basically. So from the end of the 1800s all the way through to like the 1960s and 70s. I did not know very much about this. I am on page 86 right now of this quite large book, and it basically is narrative nonfiction. Wilkerson is telling this history through 3 case studies, so 3 different individuals at 3 slightly different time periods, following their life stories, and while doing that, mixing in all the information about Jim Crow South and what was going on in the U.S. at the time period. Heartbreaking, difficult to read at times, but also a lot of humor. Wilkerson is a masterful writer. This reads like fiction, so it is not hard to read this and get lost in it. And as we're doing that reading this piece of nonfiction, we are also mixing in middle grade fiction to go along with it, as we did with the nonfiction book that we read about Panama Canal, and we mixed in some middle grade fiction. And for this one, we're doing The Watsons Go to Birmingham, 1963 by Christopher Paul Curtis. I have not actually started this one yet, and sorry for the glare from this library copy, but I will be reading that along with The Warmth of Other Suns and discussing it with my buddies. And then today, I am starting a buddy read with Doris and Adam and Valentina of Lost Children Archive by Valerie Luiselli. I read her piece of nonfiction, Tell Me How It Ends, an essay in 40 questions about children brought to the border and their experiences with immigration and her experience in helping children as they try to navigate the immigration process, which was really essential reading. And this book's been on tons of prize lists. It was longlisted for the Booker, did not make the short list if I remember correctly, but has been a book that I have heard I've heard good and bad reviews of. I know some folks that have really liked it and some folks that have really disliked it. So I want to try it for myself, and what a better way to do it than buddy reading it with great readers to help you figure it out. So I actually have started this, and I've gotten to page, I think, like 25 or something. And so far I like the writing style, like the format of it is sort of written in these little chunks, and I find that's very easy way to get a lot of reading done because it keeps me moving through the text. But I've had a couple of raised eyebrow moments at some of the language, so we'll see. Jury's still out. I haven't read enough to really know what I think about this book. I think the themes of this book are really capturing me. I'm really liking the themes, but I'm not sure about the writing yet. So that's where we are with that. So that is what I've recently read and what I'm currently reading. A lot on the go. I need to pick a new audiobook, so we'll see what that is. I hope you are all doing well and have found some good books to read, and I will talk to you later.